ידיד נפש אף רחמן, ידיד נפש אף רחמן, בשוכבתך ברצונך, בשוכבתך ילה לה 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 רצונך ירוץ עבדך כמו אייל ישתחווה אלי ילה לה 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 אל מול הדרך ידיד נפש אף רחמן, ידיד נפש אף רחמן, בשוכבתך ברצונך, בשוכבתך ילה לה לה לה
On page 2, we turn back just a few pages, page 2, for the lighting of Shabbat candles. Barbara, Broff Goldman, and Dana Cohen, come on up and light candles. Page 2. Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We continue on page 24, Shalom Alechem. We're welcoming in the Shabbat angels, the messengers of peace, page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ruachem l'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeichem l'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, we've done this one before on page 12 from Psalm 95. Or is it on 13?
End of the second paragraph.
End of the second paragraph, thank you. The end of the second paragraph, the last two lines of the second paragraph.
Asher lo hayam, vehu asahu. Asher lo hayam, vehu asahu. Veyavesh et yadav, אשר לא היה והוא עשהו ויבשת ידיו יצרו ויבשת ידיו יצרו.
That one was about the sea and the land, and this one is about the heavens on page 13. Yismechu hashamayim, the heavens rejoice. All of the earth is exulting. On page 96, this beginning of this second paragraph, down towards the bottom of the page.
Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umelo. 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 Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz.
We come to Lecha Dodi on page 20, welcoming the presence, as if we were able to actually physically welcome the Shabbat presence, with Lecha Dodi, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And we rise to turn to the door on the last verse.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad ishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki mekor haberacha, mirosh mikedem nesucha, sof maseh b'machshavat chila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Itorri, itorri, kivore kumiori, uri, uri, shi ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, הולך אדוני לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, הולך אדוני לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Please use this opportunity, then, since you're standing up, to wish someone Shabbat Shalom, like, to actually move, to actually shake someone's hand. Shabbat Shalom. I'm weary. Samantha, do you know? Guess we're done today already. All right, we'll continue then on page 22 with the Psalm for Shabbat. So this is Psalm 92, and we'll be doing Tzadik HaTamar, so it's at the indented part towards the middle of page 22.
Tzadik HaTamar yifrach, yifrach, Tzadik HaTamar yifrach, Tzadik HaTamar yifrach, yifrach, Tzadik HaTamar yifrach, Ke'erez balvanon yizke, Ke'erez balvanon yizke, Ke'erez balvanon yizke, yizke, Ke'erez balvanon yizke, Ke'erez balvanon yizke, Ke'erez balvanon yizke, yizke. Once more. Tzadik HaTamar yifrach, yifrach, Tzadik HaTamar yifrach, Tzadik HaTamar yifrach, yifrach, Tzadik HaTamar yifrach, Ke'erez balvanon yizke, 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 yizke.
Turning ahead to Chetzi Kaddish on page 26, we move from Kabbalat Shabbat into the rest of the evening service.
Yist gadol ve'yit kadash shemei rabah, ve'halamad yivarach yirutei v'yamelich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, bagala, bagala, u'bizman kariv yimeru. Amen.
Yesh merabah mevorach, Eolam Eomaya,
Yitbarach, Yitbarach, v'yishabach, v'yitbar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei tekudeshah. Richu li'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, u'shmechata v'nechemata, yamiram bi'alma v'yimeru. Amen.
Please rise as you are able for Baruch Hu, page 28.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai
Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma potech sha'arim, uvitvuna meshana itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta,
Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbenu, ufkumenu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yaminu, u'bahem negei yomam v'layla, negei yomam v'layla. Yavadcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Olam Va'ed.
You may be seated, and we continue on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בראשיתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Turning the page, on page 38, we read together. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You perform miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. For Micha Mocha on page 40.
ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, קהל ישראל.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Page 43. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up to life renewed. We ask God to spread over us a Sukkat Shalom, a shelter of peace over us, over all of us, and all of those who are in need of healing of body and spirit. Tonight we hold in our hearts Carol Alpert, Lod Ackerman, Dale Anderson, Julie Arnheim, James Barrett, Les Berkowitz, Bonnie Bloom, Alex Botkin, Jennifer Burnow, Dina Demas, Joanne Mandel DeWitt, Anne Fay, Jessica Fondy, Stuart Gall, Mark Greenberg, Amanda Goldstein, Richard Gordon, Dina Hofkosh, Wayne Hunkel, Richard Can, Naum Kaplan, Sylvia Kasparowski, Al Camper, Ruth Leff, Isabel Leindecker, Susan Lother, Beatrice Jean B.G. Morrison, Marco Maksara, Ellen Newberg, Fred Oringer, Lev Podorovsky, Charles Rosenblum, Jonathan Robeson, Oliver Scheibel, Bill Stein, Drew Tomasi, Helen Marie Tyree, David Wallach, Dr. Malcolm Weiss, Claudius Willis, Ralph Wise. Are there any other names from Misha Baruch tonight?
Justice Shapiro, Joe Trammell, and Marcy Brett.
Misha Baruch Avotenu v'imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, Hu Yivarech v'Yirapeh et HaCholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporesu kat shalom, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people, and over Jerusalem. We turn the page now, Vishamru, in the acknowledgement of our covenant with God to keep Shabbat. Top of page 44.
Shameru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, La'asot et HaShabbat, לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. שמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. את ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ומים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם, לדורותם ברית עולם.
As we turn to the tefillah on page 46, please rise as you are able.
Adonai, שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. אדוני, שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Oh God, Adonai, Sefatai tiftach, Ufi yagid elatecha. Adonai, Sefatai tiftach, Ufi yagid elatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chastei Avot ve'imahot, Umevii Geula livnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחלקי החיים בחסד, בחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומטמיע ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני בחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. On page 55, disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai, deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. And on page 57 at the top of the page, a prayer for prayer that we read together. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve and reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levavdecha yirah na'avod. And on the top of 59, a prayer of gratitude. Together. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha uchana'eh lahodot. On page 60, Shalom Rav, a prayer for peace, big, abundant peace. It's the last prayer of the tefillah, and we follow it with our own silent prayer.
Please join. טוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
Amen.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. אמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. אמרו
So in the beginning of January, I accompanied a group of young couples on a trip to Israel. It was a trip called Honeymoon Israel. And the trip has 3 leaders. It has the group leader, who in our case was a young man from the Federation. We have a tour guide in Israel, and then a rabbi. So I got to be the rabbi for the Pittsburgh group. And I met Daniel many times, but we needed to meet our tour guide. And so she lives in Israel. So we had a Zoom call for her. It was during Hanukkah. It was very crazy. She was making latkes for her kid, and there was a lot of chaos going on in the phone call. It was Zoom call. And she said, well, to me, like, what do you do? Tell me what you do. So I don't know, I recounted to her what I had done that week. And she said, oh, so you're a funeral rabbi. So I actually hadn't thought of myself that way, but she does have a point because I do a lot of funerals. I did one today, in fact, for Elliot Weinberg. He was a sweet, sweet man, a sweet soul. He spent a lot of time here at Rodef Shalom, and then for the last 10 years, he lived in Youngstown. His niece took him there. So over the years, people have asked me a fair number of times if being around so much death has had an effect on me. I actually don't know, because I don't really have anything to compare it to. But one thing I do know is that I absolutely do appreciate life. Even when I'm tired and weary, I appreciate life, I appreciate my life. Maybe that does come from being around so much death. Maybe it comes from saying Kaddish with so many mourners, because every time I say Kaddish, I remind people that their grief is a reflection of the love they felt for the deceased, that that person's life was a blessing and a gift. And I think that each time we walk away from a funeral, we have the opportunity to rededicate ourselves to bearing witness to and keeping alive the wonderful things, and sometimes not so much wonderful things, but all of the things that make our loved ones, the things that they taught us. And we have we can resolve as we leave the cemetery. At least I think I do this pretty much every single time, to try to live my own best life. And I have a fair enough opportunity to do that. Rabbi Simcha Zissel Ziv, who was a 19th century Mussar rabbi, said, "Remembering death in the proper way can bring a person to the ultimate joy," which might sound strange, might sound odd. But I think his point is that death is sad, and losing our loved ones is sometimes unspeakably sad. And, yes, and, you and I, we are still here, and there is a lot to love about this life. So it is with this mindset of sort of finding a way to not turn around, but to kind of turn around this sense of sadness or this feeling of what death brings. This is mindset that I approached the teaching that this month, the month of Adar, the month in which we celebrate Purim, has sort of a teaching that goes with it. So the teaching is, when Adar begins, this month in which we celebrate Purim, when Adar begins, rejoicing increases. So, as I said, death is sad, and losing our loved ones is sometimes unspeakably sad, and we are still here. There is so much sadness and brokenness and messiness in our world, and there is much in which to rejoice. There is so much to rejoice about. This teaching, when Adar begins, rejoicing increases, appears in the Talmud in Masachet Ta'anit 20a. Last week we had a Talmud person with us, so I thought I'd give you a Talmud reference. This, interestingly, and so Jewishly, the teaching about rejoicing in Adar begins in the middle of a very sad discussion about the month of Av. The Gemara teaches when Av enters, we decrease rejoicing. When Av is in the summer, it's the day in which the temple was destroyed. The first temple was destroyed. The second temple was destroyed. We list a lot of other calamities that happened on that day, attribute them to the 9th of Av. It's the saddest day of the Jewish calendar. And in this discussion of Tisha B'Av, in the month of Av, the Gemara says, when Av enters, we decrease rejoicing. So they're having this conversation about Av, and they say, when this month enters, we decrease rejoicing. They follow that teaching with a tragic and vivid story about the destruction of the temple and of the young Kohanim, the young priests who climb to the roof of a burning temple, and they throw their keys up to God in heaven before falling into the flames to perish. At this point, Rav Yehuda, quoting another rabbi named Rav, pipes in with, when Adar comes, rejoicing increases. So here they are having this discussion about these terrible tragedies, and this guy pipes in with, when Adar comes, rejoicing increases. So Jewish, right? Here we are talking about these terrible things. Sometimes the sentiment is shortened to, be happy, it's Adar. Be happy, it's Adar. But I actually think that's not a good translation. I think it's a bit of a misunderstanding, and I'll tell you why. Because the teaching is not to be happy, it's to rejoice, which feels better because I'd rather be told to do something, to rejoice, rather than to feel something, to feel happy. Right? It's really hard for me to tell you to be happy. I can tell you, but it's not going to do any good, probably. In fact, it'll probably really annoy you. So the teaching is better. When Adar comes, rejoicing increases. Like we can do things that can bring rejoicing. So as Purim approaches, Purim is Monday night, I have some rejoicing suggestions, or some suggestions for how to rejoice, some of which originate with a teaching by a Rabbi Jeffrey Summit, who is at Hebrew College. So some of these are his and some of them are mine. So it is a tradition to give mishloach manot to friends on Purim. So it is tradition to take a couple of different kinds of food, to put them in some kind of packaging, creative or not creative, and to deliver them to friends. They can be happy, and you can rejoice that you brightened up someone's day. So it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be just a little. 2 people is all you need to fulfill the mitzvah, to 2 different kinds of food, right? 2 different kinds of food to 2 different kinds of people, and you can brighten up somebody's day. It's a way for and you can then rejoice. So that would, if you want to do it, Tuesday's the day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, Purim is celebrated on different days in different places. So I would say, give it a try. Do a spontaneous act of kindness. Some people add a little tzedakah donation to their utility bills as a way of expressing gratitude for having a warm and comfortable home. There's a tradition to give tzedakah on Purim itself, so that someone actually could use that money to buy some food. Another way to do that might be to just, you could do that, certainly, or you could maybe think of a creative way of some act of kindness, something that comes from our own place of gratitude. This Rabbi Jeffrey Summit suggests that even little overtures of connection can be helpful. He said, when someone knows you are thinking of them, the world will get a little bit warmer and softer. And it can be a very simple thing that we do. I don't even want to give you ideas. Maybe you'll give me some ideas. Just ways that we can brighten up someone's life. And finally, and this one connects back to the notion I shared at the beginning about how so much death has helped me appreciate life. There is an app, you can get it on your phone, it's called We Croak. Anyone ever heard of it? So in case you get upset with me, Rabbi Angela Buckdahl, who is like the greatest rabbi in the country, she is the one who taught me about We Croak. And not me, she wrote a piece about it. Okay, it's called We Croak. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think the idea behind it is brilliant. 5 times a day, We Croak will send you a life-affirming text. It will basically, so here's an example. This one comes from Mark Twain. And by the way, I think it says, you will die someday. Here's a quote for your day, right? We croak. So here's an example from Mark Twain. I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. Rabbi Summit has found the app has helped him think about the joy and privilege of being alive, which he says on some deep level makes me feel happy. So he actually has that sense, the feeling of being happy. I did look up We Croak today. I got a text that I didn't think was all that great, but it was about the temporary nature of life, which it's on the right theme. But then I found out that in order to get like really good We Croaks, you have to pay for it, and I don't like to pay for my apps, so I'm just going to get the kind of not so good ones. But it's on my phone as of today. If Purim is about turning things upside down, then perhaps it makes sense that contemplating one's death, but not too seriously, is a way to access joy, or at least to rejoice in life. However you celebrate Purim this year, at the Megillah reading and the spiel that we are sharing with Tree of Life on Monday night, at the Purim Carnival for young children on Sunday afternoon, it's always a wonderful time. By sending someone a gift of food, by spontaneously doing something kind or generous, or by remembering your own mortality, I wish you much rejoicing. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We turn now to Aleinu on page 282. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו בהם, וגור עלינו ככל
Kaddish is on page 294. I invite you to please remain standing. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and all those whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us: Reed Malvin, Faye Neft, and Elliot Weinberg. Thus, within this past week, within the last 30 days, the Shloshim period, Libby Lee Foreman, Irma Egger Morris, and Dottie Silberman. We also remember those who died at this season in years past and whose yahrzeit we observe on this Shabbat: Harry Azen, Ruth Bachman, James Kalaman, Dan Danovitz, Sidney Dubner, Abraham C. Frank, Emmanuel Benjamin Friedberg, Joan Friedberg, Ira H. Gordon, Marcia Gumberg, Stephen J. Gergon, Helen Kamen, Morton C. Katz, Elliot Kramer, Irving Krasnopoler, Rose Krasnopoler, Gary Lee Kress, Sophia Schwartz Myers, Frederick J. Newman, Stephen Oakes, Claire Oringer, Stanley V. Ostro, Rebbe Elijah E. Palnick, S. Raymond Rakoff, Ray Rosenblum, Dorothy Roth, Ethel F. Rudin, Julian Russlander, Martin Seed, Sophia Snyder, Valerie Statler, Ernest Stern, Edward Weisberg. Are there any other names for Kaddish tonight? Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad yivrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chaychon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. V'galau v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mavarach olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnasa. Vita dar, vita lev, vita lal, shmei dekudasha, bircha. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. You may be seated.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen.
In just a minute, we'll conclude our service with Ki Eshmeira Shabbat and Kiddush and Motzi, their Hamantashen, for after services. Just a couple of acknowledgments. We thank Luke for all of his technological wizardry and devotion to our community. Thank you to our music director and our accompanist, Don McGahan. Thank you, cantor Laura Berman. Thank you all for being here. Barbara and Dana, thank you for lighting candles. Next week, we will be celebrating Dr. Jacob's birthday. His birthday is March 13th, and we'll have a birthday cake next week to share after services. He doesn't want a big, as you might imagine, he doesn't want a big ordeal, but we'll make sure that we say nice things about him and that we have some birthday cake in his honor. So that'll be next week after Friday night services. And on Monday at 7 is the Megillah reading with Tree of Life, and followed by a Purim spiel. Cantor Berman and I are both in it. You're actually a very good actor.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had a rehearsal the other day, and you just came right on cold and read it. Really? Yeah. I have 4 lines, but that's good. I'm happy with my 4 lines. So we'll conclude our service, as I said, with Ki Eshmeira Shabbat, page 330. Ki Eshmeira Shabbat, on page 5.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kadshecha v'yahava uvratzon hilchatanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Chaim.
Please come get a piece of challah. This has been smelling good the entire service. Please come get a
That's
piece
funny.
and bring your book. Take your book back out to the. No, it has been smelling really good. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm glad it has increased your joy.
Definitely. Well, I don't know if it increased my joy, but I have something to rejoice in.